Commander Roth stood in front of the large viewing screen in his command center. His three eyes focused on the data streaming across multiple displays. The alien's purple skin changed color slightly as he read the intercepted human message for the 10th time. His thick fingers moved over the control panel as he played the audio recording again. The albino Wolf is being sent to Kepler system. Repeat, our deadliest asset is en route. The voice belonged to a human female. The message had been captured by Coalition listening posts near Earth's outer territories. Roth's intelligence team had been monitoring human communications for months. This was the most disturbing message they had ever decoded. Analysis report ready, Commander, said his aide, a tall being with 4 arms and smooth gray skin. Lieutenant. Zex handed over a datapad filled with their findings. Roth read through the report. His skin turned darker purple as he processed the information. According to their best xenobiologists, an albino Wolf could only mean one thing. Humans had created some kind of biological weapon. The pale coloring suggested genetic modification. The Wolf reference meant it was a predator designed for hunting and killing. How big do you think this creature is? Roth asked his science officer. Dr. Vel, a female of his species, stepped forward. Her own skin showed patches of worried orange. Based on Earth's original wolves, we estimate it could be anywhere from 2 to 10 times larger. If humans have enhanced it genetically, it might be even bigger. The albino trait suggests they have removed natural limitations. Roth walked to the tactical display showing the Kepler system. 3 habitable planets orbited the star. 2 were Coalition colonies with millions of inhabitants. The third was disputed territory that humans claimed as their own. What makes this Wolf their deadliest asset? He wondered aloud. His weapons. Specialist, insect-like being with multiple compound eyes, clicked his mandibles nervously. Sir, our research into human military history shows they have always used biological weapons. They domesticated wolves thousands of years ago. They turned these predators into companions and weapons of war. But why send just one? Roth asked. Dr. Vel pulled up images on the main screen. Earth wolves hunt in coordinated packs. Perhaps. This albino Wolf is an alpha. It might be designed to coordinate with other weapons we cannot detect. Or worse, it might be capable of reproducing rapidly once it reaches its target. The command center fell silent as everyone considered this possibility. A biological weapon that could create copies of itself would be unstoppable. It could consume entire planets before moving to the next system. How long until it arrives at Kepler? Roth demanded. Based on the human ship's projected course and speed, approximately 72 standard hours, replied his navigation officer. Roth's skin turned almost black with concern. 72 hours to prepare for humanity's ultimate weapon. He activated the emergency communication system that connected him to Coalition High Command. This is Commander Roth of the 7th Fleet. I am declaring a Level 5 biological threat. The humans are deploying what they call their deadliest albino Wolf. All Coalition forces in the Kepler sector must be warned immediately. The response came quickly. Admiral Kess, the Coalition's supreme military commander, appeared on screen. His species resembled large, intelligent reptiles with scales that shifted colors based on emotion. Right now, those scales showed deep concern. Explain this threat, Commander, Admiral Kess ordered. Roth transmitted all the intelligence data. Sir, humans have weaponized their apex predators. This albino Wolf represents their most advanced biological warfare program. We believe it is. Heading to establish a foothold in the Kepler system. Admiral Kess studied the data for several minutes. His scales changed to angry red patterns. If humans are willing to deploy biological weapons, they have crossed a line we cannot ignore. How many Coalition citizens live in the Kepler system? Approximately 4 million across both inhabited planets, sir. And our defensive capabilities? The 7th Fleet has 43 vessels. We also have planetary defense systems on both worlds. However, our weapons are designed for conventional warfare, not biological threats. Admiral Kess made his decision quickly. I am authorizing emergency protocols. Evacuate all non-essential personnel from the Kepler system. Deploy containment barriers around both inhabited planets. Contact our xenobiological warfare specialists immediately. Meanwhile, aboard the human transport vessel Soul's Pride, Captain Kong reviewed his mission orders one more time. The ship was 3 days away from reaching the Kepler system. His crew of 12 included some of Earth's best diplomatic and reconnaissance specialists. "Everything on schedule, Captain," reported his communications officer, Nari. She was a young woman with short black hair and bright eyes. Her job was to monitor all transmissions and maintain contact with Earth Command. Captain Kong nodded. "Any unusual activity in the target system?" "Some increased military chatter, but nothing out of the ordinary. The Coalition probably knows we are coming. Standard territorial posturing." In the ship's small recreation area, Hyon sat quietly reading reports about the Coalition species they would encounter. He was a thin man in his late 20s with unusually pale skin and pure white hair. His appearance had earned him the nickname Albino Wolf among his military unit back on Earth. Hyon specialized in reconnaissance and first contact protocols. His job was to gather intelligence about Coalition military capabilities while maintaining the appearance of peaceful diplomatic contact. He had trained for 3 years for this mission. "Hey, Wolf, you ready for this?" asked Jin, the ship's engineer. Jin was a stocky man with calloused hands who kept their ship running perfectly. "As ready as anyone can be for first contact with hostile aliens," Hyon replied with a slight smile. Medical Officer Myra joined them at the small table. She was responsible for monitoring crew health and studying any alien biology they encountered. "The Coalition species we will meet have very different social structures from humans. We need to be careful not to accidentally insult them." Captain Kang's voice came over the ship's communication system. "All crew to stations. We are beginning final approach preparations. Estimated arrival in 68 hours. None of the humans." Aboard Soul's Pride realized that their casual military nickname for Hyon had been intercepted and misinterpreted. They had no idea that Coalition forces across 3 star systems were preparing for what they believed would be humanity's most devastating biological attack. The misunderstanding had already set events in motion that would change how the entire galaxy viewed the human species. In 68 hours, the truth would be revealed, but by then, the damage to human reputation would be complete. As Hyon returned to his quarters to rest, Coalition fleets were already moving toward the Kepler system. The stage was set for a confrontation that neither side truly understood. The emergency session of the Galactic Coalition Council began at dawn on the capital world of Nexus Prime. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in the massive circular chamber. The air was thick with tension as Admiral Kess presented the intelligence report about humanity's biological weapon. "The humans call it their Deadliuste Albino Wolf," Admiral Kess announced to the assembled delegates. His reptilian scales shifted to dark warning colors as he spoke. "Our intelligence suggests this is a genetically modified predator designed for planetary conquest." Delegate Mora from the Centauri Republic raised her forearms in alarm. Her blue-skinned people had been among the first to encounter humans in border skirmishes. "Admiral, we have fought humans before. Their individual soldiers are already more dangerous than our entire squads. If they have created some kind of super-predator. She did not finish the sentence. The implications were too terrifying to speak aloud. Dr. Vell, the Coalition's chief xenobiologist, activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. Images of Earth's ancient wolves appeared, snarling and hunting in packs. "Based on our analysis, this albino wolf could be 10 times larger than the original species. The genetic modifications that cause the white coloring might also remove natural limits on size and aggression." The chamber erupted in frightened chatter. Representatives from dozens of species spoke in their native languages, but the meaning was clear in every tongue. Fear. "How do we know it is heading for the Kepler system?" asked Ambassador Thane, whose people lived on methane-rich worlds far from human space. Commander Roth appeared on the main communications screen from his flagship. We intercepted direct human military communications. They specifically mentioned sending their deadliest asset to Kepler. The timing matches the approach of their diplomatic vessel. Diplomatic vessel? Scoffed Delegate Mora. Humans do not understand diplomacy. They understand only violence and conquest. This albino Volf is probably their way of softening our defenses before a full invasion. In the back of the chamber, the younger delegates whispered among themselves. Many had heard stories about human combat effectiveness, but few had believed them. Now, faced with evidence of a biological superweapon, those stories seemed more believable. What are the capabilities of this creature? Asked the representative from the Tau Ceti colonies. Dr. Vell manipulated the holographic display to show theoretical models. Original Earth wolves could run at 60 kilometers per hour, had bite forces of over 400 pounds per square inch, and could hunt in coordinated packs. An enhanced version might exceed all these capabilities dramatically. The display showed a massive white creature with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth. The computer model demonstrated how such a predator might tear through coalition defenses. Could it survive in space? Someone asked from the crowd. Unknown, but humans have shown remarkable ability to adapt their organisms to hostile environments. It is possible they have given this Volf the ability to survive in vacuum or on worlds with different atmospheres. Admiral Kess called for order as panic spread through the chamber. We have 48 hours before the human vessel reaches Kepler. I am authorizing the largest military response in coalition history. Every available ship will converge on the system. Meanwhile, news of the threat had begun spreading beyond the official channels. On trade stations throughout coalition space, merchants and travelers shared rumors about humanity's ultimate weapon. The stories grew more frightening with each telling. On the mining station orbiting Rigel 7, dock workers gathered around communication terminals listening to emergency broadcasts. A Drachnary freighter captain, his thick gray hide scarred from years of dangerous cargo runs, shook his massive head in disbelief. I hauled supplies near human space once, he rumbled to his audience. Saw a human settlement that had been attacked by raiders. The humans had already dealt with the problem before help arrived. 50 raiders against 12 humans, the humans won. His listeners fell silent. Everyone knew the Drachnary were among the strongest species in the galaxy. If they respected human combat ability, the situation was serious indeed. Similar conversations were happening across hundreds of worlds. In spaceports, military bases, and civilian centers, the word spread humanity had created something that terrified even their own allies. On the agricultural world of Harvest Prime, farming communities began requesting emergency evacuation. The planet's defense coordinator, a methodical being whose species valued careful planning above all else, studied the reports with growing alarm. If this albino Volf can reproduce, he told his staff, it could consume our entire food production within months. We need to move our seed banks to secure locations immediately. The panic was not limited to military and government officials. Civilian populations throughout the galaxy began preparing for the worst. Emergency supply stores sold out on dozens of worlds. Transport ships raised their prices as demand for passage away from human space increased dramatically. Back on the human vessel Soul's Pride, the crew continued their peaceful approach to the Kepler system. Communications Officer Nari had noticed the increased military chatter, but attributed it to normal territorial tension. Captain, she reported to Kong, coalition forces are definitely mobilizing in the target system. Looks like they are taking our diplomatic mission seriously. Captain Kang nodded while reviewing star charts. Good, maybe they are finally ready to negotiate instead of just posturing. Any word from Earth Command? Routine status reports only. They confirm our mission parameters remain unchanged. In his quarters, Han was studying coalition cultural protocols when engineer Jin knocked on his door. Jin entered carrying 2 cups of coffee and sat down across from his friend. You nervous about first contact? Jin asked. Hyun shrugged. A little. We are going into hostile territory with only 12 crew members. If things go wrong, we are on our own out here. The Coalition is not stupid enough to attack a diplomatic vessel, Jin replied. That would mean war with Earth, and nobody wants that. Medical Officer Myra joined them, looking tired from her shift monitoring ship systems. I have been reading about Coalition biology. Some of their species are really different from us. We need to be careful about what we eat, what we touch, even what we breathe. The three humans sat quietly for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts about the mission ahead. None of them suspected that their simple presence in space had triggered the largest military mobilization in galactic history outside their viewports. The stars looked peaceful and distant. But throughout Coalition space, those same stars were being watched by millions of frightened beings who believed humanity's deadliest weapon was approaching their worlds. The misunderstanding had spread far beyond military channels. It had become a galaxy-wide panic that would change everything. Admiral Kess stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty dreadnought Victory of Nexus. Around him, officers from a dozen different species worked frantically at their stations. The largest military fleet in galactic history was assembling. Around his vessel, "Status report," he commanded, his scales showing the deep red patterns of extreme stress. "Sir, we now have 347 vessels in formation," reported his tactical officer, a insect-like being whose compound eyes could track multiple displays simultaneously. "More ships are arriving every hour." Through the massive viewports, Admiral Kess could see the Coalition fleet stretching in all directions. Battleships from the Rigel Federation floated alongside destroyers from the Centauri Republic. Fast attack. Cruisers from the Outer Rim colonies moved in formation with heavy carriers from the core worlds. "What about our biological warfare specialists?" Admiral Kess asked. "Dr. Zara's research team is aboard the science vessel New Hope," his communications officer replied. "They have brought every piece of anti-biological equipment we have. Containment fields, atmospheric processors, and genetic analysis tools." Dr. Zara was the Coalition's leading expert on biological weapons. Her species had evolved natural immunity to most toxins and diseases, making them ideal for this kind of work. She had spent the last 20 hours developing theoretical countermeasures against the albino Volf. On the science vessel, Dr. Zara reviewed her team's findings with growing concern. Her purple-scaled assistants worked around the clock analyzing every piece of data about Earth's wolves. "The creature's white coloring troubles me most," she told her research team. "In nature, albino animals are usually weaker than normal specimens, but humans would not call something their deadliest weapon if it had weaknesses." Her assistant, a young scientist named Kira, pulled up genetic models on the main screen. "Doctor, what if the albino trait is not a weakness but an enhancement? What if they have removed the genetic limitations that normally control size and aggression?" Dr. Zara's eyes widened. "Show me your calculations." The holographic display revealed a theoretical creature that defied natural laws. If humans had truly mastered genetic modification to this degree, they could create predators that grew continuously throughout their lives, never reaching a maximum size. "This albino Volf could potentially grow to the size of a small building," Kira explained. "And if it can reproduce, each offspring might also lack growth limitations." The research team fell silent as they considered the implications. A single creature that could spawn unlimited numbers of ever-growing predators would be unstoppable. Meanwhile, throughout Coalition space, military bases were emptying as every available ship rushed toward the Kepler system. On the fortress world of Guardian Prime, General Voss watched as his orbital defense platforms were stripped of their best weapons. "Sir, we are leaving our core worlds defenseless," protested his aide. A young officer whose species valued caution above all else, General Voss, a massive being whose people had evolved from predatory hunters, shook his head grimly. "If this albino Volf establishes itself in the Kepler system, our core worlds will not matter. It will spread from there to consume everything." The evacuation of Coalition civilians had begun in earnest. On the agricultural world of New Eden, transport ships landed continuously to carry away frightened families. The planetary governor, a methodical being who had spent decades building the colony, watched his life's work being abandoned. "How long do we have?" asked his wife, clutching their young children. "The human vessel will arrive in 18 hours, he replied. "We must assume the albino Wolf will be released immediately upon arrival." Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. Entire populations fled their homes based on rumors and fear. The galactic economy began to collapse as trade routes shut down and production facilities closed. On the industrial moon of Titan's Rest, factory workers received emergency broadcasts telling them to report to evacuation centers. The moon's administrator, a practical being whose species had built much of the Coalition's technology, struggled to maintain order. "We have worked for generations to build this facility," he announced to his workers. "But no amount of industrial capacity is worth risking exposure to humanity's biological weapon." The evacuation proceeded smoothly, but everyone understood what they were losing. Centuries of progress and development were being abandoned because of one intercepted message about an albino Wolf. Back with the main fleet, Admiral Kess received reports from his scouts. Fast reconnaissance ships had reached the edge of the Kepler system and confirmed the human vessel's approach. "Admiral, the human ship appears to be a standard diplomatic transport," reported Scout Captain Dex over the communication channel. "We detect no unusual biological signatures." "That means nothing," Admiral Kess replied. "The creature is probably contained in specialized chambers we cannot scan. Maintain safe distance and continue monitoring." Scout Captain Dex, piloting his small but fast vessel, kept pace with the Soul's Pride from several light minutes away. His sensors showed a simple human ship with a crew of 12. Nothing seemed threatening about the vessel, but he knew appearances could be deceiving. "All ships, this is Admiral Kess," came the fleet-wide broadcast. "We are implementing Protocol 7. No vessel is to approach within 100,000 kilometers of the human ship until we confirm the nature of their biological weapon." Protocol 7 was designed for the most extreme biological threats. It assumed that the enemy weapon could potentially spread through space itself, requiring massive safety distances. Dr. Zara's research team had developed theoretical containment procedures, but they had never been tested against anything like the albino Wolf. Emergency production facilities throughout Coalition space worked continuously to build specialized equipment. "We need containment fields that can hold something the size of a city block," Dr. Zara explained in her briefing to the fleet commanders. "The creature might also have abilities we cannot predict. Enhanced speed, intelligence, or even technological integration." The idea that humans might have created a technological-biological hybrid terrified even experienced military officers. It suggested a level of scientific advancement far beyond what the Coalition had achieved. Aboard the Soul's Pride, Captain Kang noticed the massive fleet presence ahead of them but remained focused on his diplomatic mission. "They certainly are taking this seriously," he commented to Communications Officer Nari. "Sir, I am detecting over 400 Coalition vessels in the system," she reported. "This is far beyond normal territorial defense." Engineer Jin performed final system checks while Medical Officer Mira prepared her equipment for analyzing alien environments. In his quarters, Hyan reviewed first contact protocols one final time. None of the humans realized they were approaching the largest military trap in galactic history, set for a weapon that existed only in alien imagination. The Soul's Pride dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system with a brilliant flash of light. Captain Kang immediately felt his stomach tighten as his sensors detected the massive alien fleet waiting for them. "Holy stars," whispered Communications Officer Nari, staring at her displays. "Captain, I am reading 463 alien vessels. This is not a normal diplomatic reception." Captain Kang moved quickly to the tactical station. The view screen showed ships stretching in every direction around them. Massive battleships, sleek destroyers, and strange vessels he had never seen before formed defensive formations that extended for millions of kilometers. "All stop," he ordered Engineer Jin. "Nari, try to establish communications on all diplomatic frequencies." Yes, sir, Nari replied, her fingers flying over her control panel. Broadcasting standard peaceful intentions message now. Aboard Admiral Kess's flagship, alarms sounded throughout the bridge. The human vessel had arrived exactly as predicted. Officers scrambled to their battle stations while maintaining the required safe distance. Admiral, the human ship has stopped just inside the system boundary, reported the tactical officer. We are detecting standard diplomatic communications. Admiral Kess studied the small human vessel on his main screen. It looked harmless enough, but he knew appearances meant nothing when dealing with biological weapons. Any sign of the albino Volf? Dr. Zara's voice came over the communication system from her science vessel. Admiral, our long-range biological scanners are not detecting any large life forms aboard the human ship. Only 12 human signatures. The creature must be contained in shielded chambers, Admiral Kess concluded. Continue scanning. Do not let them fool us with simple concealment. Scout Captain Dex, still maintaining his distant patrol, reported in from his small vessel. Admiral, the human ship appears to be broadcasting standard first contact protocols. They are requesting permission to approach for diplomatic talks. Absolutely not, Admiral Kess replied immediately. No vessel approaches within 100,000 kilometers. We do not know how far the biological weapon can spread. On the Soul's Pride, Captain Kong was growing frustrated with the lack of response from the alien fleet. 20 minutes had passed since their arrival, and still no reply to their diplomatic messages. Captain, said Medical Officer Myra from her station, the alien fleet formation suggests they are treating us as an extreme biological threat. Look at their positioning. She was right. The alien ships had formed concentric circles around the human vessel, with the largest ships on the outside and smaller, faster vessels ready to flee if needed. It was the kind of formation used against plague ships or toxic waste carriers. That makes no sense, Captain Kang muttered. We are a diplomatic mission. Why would they think we are carrying biological weapons? In his quarters, Hyan was putting on his dress uniform when the ship's intercom crackled to life. All crew to stations, we have a situation. Hyan quickly made his way to the bridge, where he found the entire crew staring at the massive alien fleet surrounding them. His pale face showed concern as he studied the tactical display. What is the situation, Captain? He asked. The aliens have us surrounded with their entire military, Captain Kong replied. They are not responding to diplomatic communications, and their formation suggests they think we are carrying some kind of biological threat. Engineer Jin looked up from his console. Captain, I am detecting massive power readings from their ships. They have enough firepower here to destroy entire star systems. The bridge fell silent as everyone considered the implications. If the aliens decided to attack, the Soul's Pride would be destroyed in seconds. Meanwhile, Admiral Kess was receiving reports from across his fleet. Every ship commander was asking the same question. Where was the albino Volf? Sir, his science officer reported, we have completed detailed scans of the human vessel. We detect no unusual biological signatures, no large containment chambers, and no signs of genetic modification equipment. Admiral Kess frowned. The creature must be there. Humans specifically said they were sending their deadliest albino Volf to this system. Dr. Zara's research team had been working frantically to solve the puzzle. On her science vessel, she reviewed every piece of data they had collected about the human ship. Doctor, her assistant Kira said suddenly, what if we have misunderstood? Something basic about human terminology? What do you mean? Dr. Zara asked. We assumed albino Volf meant a biological weapon, but what if it means something else entirely? Dr. Zara considered this possibility. Show me the original intercepted message again. The audio recording played once more. The albino Volf is being sent to Kepler system. Repeat, our deadliest asset is en route. Asset, Kira repeated. They called it an asset, not a weapon. What? If albino Volf is a code name for something else. Dr. Zara's eyes widened as understanding began to dawn. Contact Admiral Kess immediately. Back on the Soul's Pride, Communications Officer Nari finally received a response from the alien fleet. Captain, we are getting a transmission. They want to know the location of our biological weapon. Captain Kong looked confused. Biological weapon? Tell them we are not carrying any biological weapons. This is a peaceful diplomatic mission. Nari transmitted the message and waited for a response. When it came, her face went pale. Sir, they are demanding to know the location of our albino Volf. They say they know we brought our deadliest biological asset to this system. The bridge. Crew exchanged bewildered looks. Finally, Hyan spoke up. Captain, I think there might be a misunderstanding here. What kind of misunderstanding? Captain Kang asked. Hyan's pale face showed embarrassment. Well, sir, some of the crew back on Earth call me the albino Volf. It is just a nickname because of my appearance and my reconnaissance specialty. The bridge fell completely silent. Communications Officer Nari stared at Hyan with wide eyes. Engineer Jin's mouth dropped open. Medical Officer Myra looked like she might start laughing or crying. Captain Kang slowly turned to face Hyan. You mean to tell me that an entire alien fleet is surrounding us because they think you are a biological weapon? It appears that way. Sir, Hyan replied quietly. Captain Kang sat down heavily in his command chair. The most dangerous diplomatic crisis in human history had been caused by a simple nickname. He had to figure out how to explain this to 400 alien warships without starting a galactic war outside the viewports. The alien fleet continued its careful watch, still believing that somewhere aboard the small human vessel was a creature capable of destroying entire worlds. Captain Kang spent 10 minutes staring at the communication panel before he found the courage to transmit. The alien fleet had been waiting patiently for 3 hours, and he knew their patience was running out. This is Captain Kong of the Earth vessel Soul's Pride, he began carefully. We believe there has been a serious misunderstanding regarding what you call our biological weapon. The response came quickly from Admiral Kess. Captain Kong, we know you are carrying the entity you call the albino Volf. Our intelligence has confirmed this. We demand you keep it contained aboard your vessel. Communications Officer Nari looked at Captain Kong with worried eyes. Sir, how do we explain this without making things worse? Very carefully, Captain Kong replied. He activated the communication channel again. Admiral Kess, the albino Volf is not a biological weapon. It is a person, a human being. The silence. That followed stretched for nearly 5 minutes. When Admiral Kess finally responded, his voice carried confusion and disbelief. Captain Kong, our intelligence clearly indicates that the albino Volf is your deadliest asset. Are you claiming that a single human individual is what your people consider their most dangerous weapon? Captain Kong realized he had made the situation worse. No, Admiral. Albino Volf is simply a nickname for one of our crew members. His real name is Hyan. He is a reconnaissance specialist. Aboard the Coalition flagship, Admiral Kess turned to his science officer with growing alarm. Did you hear that? They are calling a single human soldier their deadliest asset. Dr. Zara's voice came over the communication system from her research vessel. Admiral, I am beginning to understand the true scope of this situation. May I suggest we request more information about this individual? Admiral Kess agreed and opened a channel to the human ship. Captain Kong, please provide details about this Hyan individual you call albino Volf. On the Soul's Pride, Hyan stepped forward to the communication station. His pale face showed embarrassment, but his voice was steady. This is Hyan. I am a human reconnaissance specialist. My friends call me albino Volf because of my white hair and pale skin. I am trained in information gathering and first contact protocols. The transmission reached every ship in the alien fleet simultaneously. In the silence that followed, thousands of alien military officers tried to process what they had just heard. Admiral Kess spoke slowly. You are telling us that you, personally, are what humans consider their deadliest asset for this mission? Not exactly, sir, Hyan replied. The message you intercepted probably referred to me as their deadliest asset for reconnaissance work. I am good at gathering intelligence without being detected. Dr. Zara's research team was frantically analyzing this new information. On her science vessel, she turned to her assistant Kira with a look of growing horror. Kira, what are the implications if humans casually refer to individual soldiers as their deadliest assets? Kira's face went pale as she understood. Doctor, it means that what we consider an entire military unit, they consider just one person. The realization hit the alien fleet like a shock wave. If humans had individual soldiers they considered deadly enough to handle entire diplomatic missions alone, what did that say about human military capability as a whole? Commander Roth, who had first intercepted the message, contacted Admiral Kess with growing panic in his voice. Sir, we have been analyzing human military terminology. They have casual nicknames for their warriors. This suggests a military culture, where individual combat effectiveness is so high that they name their soldiers like we name our weapons. Admiral Kess felt his scales turn dark with fear. Are you saying that humans produce individual soldiers who are equivalent to our military equipment? Sir, it appears to be worse than that. They produce so many effective soldiers that they have nicknames for them. Aboard the Soul's Pride, Captain Kong was becoming frustrated with the lengthy silences between communications. Admiral Kess? I assure you that Hyan is just a normal human being. He has no special weapons, no genetic modifications, and no ability to threaten your colonies. The response, when it came, carried a tone of barely controlled terror. Captain Kang, you say? This individual is normal by human standards? Yes, Admiral. Hyan is a typical reconnaissance specialist. We have thousands of soldiers with similar training. The communication channel went dead. Across the alien fleet, commanders were processing the horrifying implications of what they had just learned. They have thousands, whispered the tactical officer on Admiral Kess's bridge. Thousands of individuals they consider equivalent to military assets. Dr. Zara transmitted her analysis to the fleet command. Admiral, we have been approaching the situation from the wrong perspective. We assumed Albino Wolf was their ultimate weapon. Instead, it appears to be just one example of their standard military capability. Admiral Kess stared at the small human ship on his viewscreen. Inside that vessel was a single human that his people had mobilized 400 ships to contain. And according to the humans themselves, this individual was perfectly ordinary by their standards. Dr. Zara, what is your assessment of human military potential based on this new information? Admiral, if they can produce individual soldiers effective enough to be mistaken for biological superweapons, and if they consider such individuals to be normal, then human military capability exceeds our worst-case scenarios. Scout Captain Dex, still maintaining his distant patrol, transmitted his observations. Admiral, I have been watching the human ship for hours. They show no signs of fear or concern about our fleet. Either they are incredibly brave or they genuinely do not understand why we are treating them as a threat. Or, Admiral Kess replied grimly, they are confident that one ordinary human soldier can handle anything we might do to them. The possibility that humans were so militarily advanced that they viewed a 400-ship fleet as non-threatening was more terrifying than any biological weapon could have been. Engineer Jin, who had been monitoring alien communications, looked up from his station with confusion. Captain, I am detecting massive power fluctuations throughout the alien fleet. It looks like they are charging their weapon systems. Captain Kang felt a chill run down his spine. Are they preparing to attack us? Medical Officer Myra checked her displays. Sir, their formation is shifting. They appear to be trying to increase their distance from us. The truth was becoming clear. The alien fleet was not preparing to attack. They were preparing to flee. Admiral Kess stood alone in his command chamber, staring at the intelligence reports that had been flooding in for the past 6 hours. His scales had turned the deepest black his species could produce, a color reserved for existential terror. The reports painted a picture that challenged everything the Coalition thought they knew about warfare. Human military records, pieced together from intercepted communications and captured documents, revealed a truth more frightening than any biological weapon. Admiral, his aide entered quietly, the analysis teams have completed their review. Admiral, Kess turned to face the younger officer. Tell me, sir, based on human military records, individual human soldiers routinely accomplish missions that would require full battalions from our species. The human they call Hyan appears to be average by their standards. The admiral walked to his viewing port and looked out at the human vessel, so small, so harmless in appearance. Yet inside was a being that represented the normal output of human military training. What else have we learned? Sir, humans have a culture of giving nicknames to their warriors. They do this casually, the way we might name our favorite tools or weapons. This suggests they produce effective soldiers so regularly that individual recognition is common. Admiral Kess felt his blood run cold. How many of these nicknamed warriors do they have? Unknown, sir. But based on communication patterns, potentially. Millions. Dr. Zara's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, I need to speak with you urgently. Go ahead, Doctor. Sir, my team has been analyzing human evolutionary history. The species developed on a death world. High gravity. Dangerous predators, extreme climate variations. They evolved to be persistence hunters who could chase prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. Admiral Kess gripped the railing of his viewing port. Continue. Admiral, every human is descended from the most successful predators their planet ever produced. Then they spent thousands of years in continuous warfare against each other, constantly improving their combat effectiveness. What we are seeing is not genetic modification or technological enhancement. This is the natural result of their evolutionary process. The implications were staggering. Humans had not created super soldiers. They had evolved to be super soldiers. Doctor, what is your recommendation? Admiral, we must establish peaceful relations with humanity immediately. A species that produces individuals like Hyan as their baseline population should never, under any circumstances, be considered enemies. Across the Coalition fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Ship commanders who had spent decades studying military tactics were coming to the same terrifying conclusion on the heavy cruiser stalwart defense. Captain Mora reviewed her ship's combat records. Her vessel had been involved in dozens of conflicts over the past 20 years. She had always considered herself an experienced warrior. Weapons officer, she called to her subordinate. How many enemy soldiers would it take to capture our ship? The weapons officer, a seasoned veteran of multiple wars, considered the question carefully. Captain, based on our defensive systems and crew complement, I estimate it would require at least 500 trained soldiers to successfully board and capture this vessel. Captain Mora nodded grimly. According to these intelligence reports, humans have individual soldiers who have accomplished equivalent missions alone. The weapons officer's face went pale. Captain, are you saying that one human could potentially capture our entire ship? That appears to be what the evidence suggests. Similar realizations were occurring throughout the fleet. The coalitions. Most experienced military officers were discovering that their assumptions about warfare were completely wrong. Commander Roth, whose interception of the original message had started this crisis, transmitted a fleet-wide communication to all ship commanders. All vessels, this is Commander Roth. Based on our analysis of human military capability, I am recommending immediate withdrawal from the Kepler system. We are not equipped to handle contact with a species this advanced. Admiral Kess considered the recommendation. 463 ships, the largest military force in coalition history, fleeing from 12 humans on a diplomatic mission. The irony was not lost on him. Dr. Zara, what is your final assessment? Admiral, humanity represents an evolutionary path that the Coalition has never encountered. They are not just advanced in technology or tactics. They are biologically optimized for warfare in ways we cannot match. And the individual called Hyan represents their normal military output, sir. If he is what they consider a standard reconnaissance specialist, then their actual combat troops must be beyond our ability to comprehend. Admiral Kess made his decision. All ships, this is Admiral Kess. We are implementing immediate diplomatic Protocols with the human vessel. Under no circumstances is any coalition ship to take hostile action. Aboard the Soul's Pride, Captain Kong was becoming increasingly confused by the alien fleet's behavior. For the past hour, the alien ships had been moving to even greater distances while maintaining constant communication. Captain, Communications Officer Nari reported, the alien fleet commander is requesting formal diplomatic negotiations. He is asking for permission to send a small delegation to meet with us. That is more like it, Captain Kong replied. Tell them we accept their request. Hyan looked up from his cultural briefing materials. Captain, something about this situation feels wrong. Why would they mobilize their entire military for a diplomatic meeting? Maybe they are just being cautious, Medical Officer Myra suggested. First contact situations can be unpredictable. Engineer Jin monitored the alien fleet movements from his station. Captain, their ships are maintaining a distance of over 200,000 kilometers. That is not normal diplomatic protocol. What the human crew did not understand was that the aliens were maintaining maximum safe distance from what they now believed was humanity's ultimate expression of military evolution. Admiral Kess personally piloted a small shuttle toward the Soul's Pride, accompanied by only 3 advisors. As they approached the human vessel, he could not shake the feeling that he was approaching something far more dangerous than any weapon. Admiral, his pilot asked nervously, are you certain this is safe? Admiral Kess looked at the small human ship growing larger in their view screen. Nothing about this situation is safe. But if we are going to survive as a species, we need to establish peaceful relations with humanity immediately. The shuttle docked with the Soul's Pride without incident. As Admiral Kess prepared to meet the humans face to face, he sent one final message to his fleet. All ships, if these negotiations fail, do not attempt rescue. Retreat immediately to Coalition space and recommend that all member worlds surrender to humanity before they decide to expand their territory. The message sent shock waves through the Coalition fleet. The idea that their supreme military commander was preparing for the possibility of species-wide surrender was beyond their worst nightmares. As Admiral Kess walked through the airlock to meet the humans, he knew that the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had not sent a biological weapon to the Kepler system. They had sent something far more terrifying, a perfectly ordinary example of what their species considered normal. The age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun not through conquest or intimidation, but through the simple revelation of what they truly were. And across Coalition space, billions of beings were beginning to understand that they lived in a universe where humans were the apex predators.